Hello, this is a presentation for brain-based learning. This is a group work by Shaima and Mushira, Dalia, and Osama. First, we have three topics. We will speak about them, and we included the references for these topics. This is a research, group research. The first is 60 tips for brain-based learning. The second, the science of successful learning. And the third, what can we do to ensure learning that lasts? First, tips for brain-based learning. How brain-based learning could make a huge difference in the way students could learn. We can create a safe climate for learning. When students are feeling anxious, not in rest, or not worried or fearful, they aren't in the mood of learn or to learn. And sure, the brain, which is worried and stressed with different emotions and like fear, cannot receive information well. Morning meetings, developmental discipline, and student leadership teams are among the strategies that can foster healthy social and emotional learning. Yes. The second thing in the six tips, encourage a growth mindset. Ask students to describe their brain with a metaphor, and they are likely to suggest a computer command center or maybe a lightning fast communication network. But they'd be better off thinking of the brain as a muscle that gets stronger with use. Researchers now understand that IQ isn't fixed at the brain. Just as we got more physically fit from exercising, we can build brain power through the act of learning. Human brains, human brains are as unique as faces. All brains are not equal because context and ability influence learning. And the brain is changed by experience. The brain is highly plastic. The brain connects new information to old. The third thing in the six steps, emphasize feedback. Educational researchers have long stressed the value of feedback for keeping learning on track. Savvy classroom teachers they use a range of formative assessment strategies to check in on understanding and address my misconceptions early. Not surprisingly, feedback is a cornerstone of brain-based learning (BBL) in mind, brain, and education science. The researchers points out great teachers know that moments of evaluation can and should always become moments of teaching. And the fourth thing, or the four steps of the six steps of brain-based learning, get bodies and brains in gear. We have to make a movement in the classroom. So exercising will lead oxygen or increase oxygen in the brain, so it gives refreshment and help in focusing and concentrating in the information and studying and receiving information. So physical physical sports teachers collaborate with academic colleagues to find more opportunities for brain breaks that get students moving during class. So some activities. And the fifth point, start early. Formal schooling may not start until age 5, but we all know children are learning long before they begin kindergarten. And the sixth point or sixth step, embrace the power of novelty, or follow the power of creativity, or enforce the power of creativity. Surprise and novelty are the attention grabbers in the classroom. This means that changing routines, asking students to consider similarities and differences, field trips, and guest visitors are help to keep learning fresh. This is very important point. The second thing on our topic of the brain-based learning is the science of successful learning. Make it desirably difficult, not be easy. Choose mixed practice over blocked practice. What's the difference between mixed practice and blocked practice? Blocked practice is the same practice, the same thing. It's like repeating things, but mixed, it's random and it's some difficulties we will see now because certain difficulties encountered in learning, one that can be overcome through effort, often produce better performance in the long term. If students have to solve four different types of math problems with the types given in a random sequence, the task feels hard and clunky to them because they are confused early on. With mixed breaks of examples, students have to. They are confused early on. With mixed practice of example, students have to figure out what kind of a problem they are facing. Then remember or look up for the formula or the rule for it and then solve the problem. Blocked practice is much easier because it avoids the first two steps, discovering the type of problem and determining the formula needed. In blocked practice, just repeatedly run through the same routine. It's easy. The second thing of the science of successful learning, choose active retrieval over rereading. Retrieval means you read and then understand and then solve problems or quiz. All the habits die hard. Yeah. Research shows that methods like blocked breaks or rereading work fine if performance is only measured shortly after learning. Teachers can look at a quiz performance soon after teaching with blocked breaks examples, see good grades, and think, my students are really learning. Yes, but they must wonder why their knowledge has melted away by final exam time. Or worse yet, when they need to know the material outside of the class. When they finish the class and they need to practice practically and use practically what they learned or the information they get. Third one in the successful learning or the sense of the successful learning, more than a four-letter word. Test is a four-letter word. Is clearly a four-letter word is most indicators. The problem is that the benefits of testing are not immediately obvious because the retrieval practice facilities long-term use of knowledge. Further, retrieval practice does not enhance knowledge just of basic facts, but also procedures, visual representations, and narratives. Some evidence also shows that retrieval practice may enhance transfer of knowledge to new situations. And the third impairs or encourage the difficulty. When I describe research on the benefits of introducing difficulty, such as frequent testing into the learning process, teachers often tell me my students will repel or my student rating will suffer. But my experience and that of my colleagues say otherwise. Many students say that when courses are taught this way, they are always caught up with their work and preparing for big tests or final exam is easier. The third point in our research or our group research, what can we do to ensure learning lasts, to maintain our information for a long time? Four good ways to learn. The first one, elaborative interrogation and self-explanation. Students use these two techniques. The first, elaborative interrogation. You periodically consider the relationship between what you are reading and what you already know. Like a relationship, but what you are now reading and your previous knowledge. The second thing is with self-explanation, you periodically explain to yourself what assertions in that text are justified. And the second point for maintaining or ensures that the information lasts is disrupted practice. Cramming practice into the hours right before it is a test is an effective strategy. But implementing this strategy is, in one sense, easy. You just separate the study sessions. But by how much? It depends on how long you want to remember the material, how long lasts the material. Roughly speaking, study sessions should be separated by 10 to 20% of the time that they like to remember something. The third point here, interleaved practice is applied not just to a single list but to broader principles. Typically, a new concept is introduced in the chapter. Some sample problems are solved step by step, and a set of practice problems appears at the end of the chapter, all of which draw on the same concept algorithm. But it calls for a bit planning. When we need to interleave the practice, we need to make a planning. What's needed is a study and practice of different concepts within a single session. Not the same concept, but different concepts. The fourth one and the last one, practice testing. This technique has something in common with the interleaved practice. In this strategy, the student may struggle and even fail to remember. It feels fruitless. Wouldn't time be better spent reading over the material again? But study after study shows that taking a brief quiz is better for memory than rereading. The largest benefit to memory occurs when the student gets immediate corrective feedback. But even if there is no feedback, and even if the student fails to remember the answer, the quiz is still better for memory than rereading. In summary, we have here three topics: tips for brain based learning. And in this topic, uh, the first topic, tips for brain based learning, we have 6 points. Create a safe climate for learning, encourage a growth mindset, emphasize feedback, get bodies and brains in gear in the classroom, start early, embrace the power of novelty, or encourage the power of creativity. And the second topic, the science of successful learning, make it desirably difficult. Choose mixed practice over block practice. Mixed practice is better on measures of long-term learning. Choose active and choose active retrieval over rereading more than a four-letter word, which is a test. Embrace the difficulty. And the third topic, what can we do to ensure learning that lasts? We have four good ways to learn: elaborative interrogation and self-explanation, disrupted practice, interleaved practice, practice testing. Thank you. I hope you get useful from this presentation.